How's the Detroit Sports Podcast going?
This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to the latest edition of the Doc and Jock podcast. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my cousin, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. What's up, cuz? What's happening?
I just want everybody to know I'm going to be really, really distracted today. We've got World Cup on one of the many TVs we have in the studio, and by many I mean one TV we have in the studio. Yeah, man, I love World Cup soccer. We were just talking before we started this whole thing, and we should do more soccer on the podcast. The only problem is nobody would listen to it. There would be 2 downloads. It'd be me and it would be you, just listening back to ourselves.
If we want to really go niche, we could go and talk about Detroit City FC. I think there's a rabid fan base there. But unfortunately, they've been struggling lately. They're going to struggle, I think, this year. If you're tuning into City FC, they're going to struggle to make the postseason. A couple of losses that have been challenging. Losses at home. We could definitely talk soccer. I know you and I are definitely tuned into the World Cup. We're a little bit disappointed that Detroit's not bringing an MLS team. And it's disappointing in that, the parameters were set for an MLS team to come to Detroit, but, unfortunately, the people that were making the bid, said, well, let's just bypass what they want, and every MLS team basically has an open-air individual stadiums just for the MLS.
And they're beautiful.
And those that made the bid said, no, let's just partner with the Lions and say, let's use Ford Field. And they were like, okay, so we'll go to Cincinnati, and that's it.
Do you think MLS was like,
this is kind of braggadocious and stupid that you guys would try this?
Well, I was thinking they were maybe looking at the Lions' history, and they were like, do we really want to get in bed with this? It's so bad.
No, I just think they have parameters, and unfortunately, Detroit didn't follow it. And simple as that. And when you have parameters and the other cities followed it, that's simple as that. And, Detroit didn't get an MLS team. And maybe they'll actually figure it out and build a soccer-specific MLS stadium, and then MLS will consider it. But you had a birthday.
I did have a birthday.
How'd it go? How'd it go the last week?
You want me to tell you how it really went, or do you want me just to give you the whatever answer?
No, I want to know how you really went. Did you have a good time? Did you throw down? Did you visit the wife? Did you have
No, the wife came and visited me. She spent the last couple days with me.
Good.
This year was really, really hard. Me, myself, I'm one of those people where I've always got to be moving forward, right? And generally in my life, it's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. It's just the way it works, man. So this year was really difficult for me just because I'm not happy with kind of where I'm at. 35, I had to move back in with my mom because my wife moved to Indiana, and I'm chasing the dream, trying to do this whole thing in radio. And I'm not really sure I'm going to get to where I want to be. Do you know what I'm saying? Like my goal was to be Mike Valenti, right? Like to be that successful, to be that guy. And I don't know if I'll ever get there. And, it's not in everybody's cards, and I'm coming to realize that it's not in everybody's cards. And generally it takes a lucky break here or there. Haven't really found my lucky break yet. So I don't know. Maybe what I'm doing now is as high as I'll get, and maybe it's what it'll be. So my wife wanted to do some stuff, and I was like, I don't want to have a birthday party. I don't want to do anything. It's just another day. It's just another year that reminds me that I'm not where I want to be. And I made a big deal about it because I was just really frustrated all last week leading up to it. So we ended up really doing anything. We ended up going out to dinner, found this really cool place in Oxford. It's where my mom lives. It's called Sullivan's. It's like this little Irish pub. Great food. Oh, my God, it was amazing. Ate there, and then basically after that, I just kind of hung out with my parents. Just kind of sat there and drank a couple beers, and that was it, man. It was super low-key. Like, I did nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nothing like the birthdays of yesterday, for sure.
Oh, okay, you're having a midlife crisis. No problem, man.
Right, is that what this is?
Oh, yeah, no problem. It's normal. We all have it. We all go, am I where I need to be? But the good thing is that you keep grinding, and it'll happen. Here's the thing with what you're thinking about. It's always good to look ahead, but also the way you feel better is also to appreciate what you got, in that people would kill to be in your position and the experiences that you have already had. And so when you look at it, you go, okay, each day that you have an opportunity to move forward, you try and you take opportunities, you try your absolute best, and it is kind of in that vein, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, but you got to keep getting up the next day and battling it and appreciating the successes that you have had, and then just keep trying to reevaluate the goals and doing the best that you can. You've done a lot. And remember that most people get on the air in radio starting around 38 to 45, and it takes a long time. And so it just you got to keep battling, keep grinding, get those experiences, keep handing out those tapes and those demos, and it'll happen, man. You don't, and plus, to be Adam Strozinski, you don't got to be Mike Fellini. Mike Fellini's got his own niche, and he's done his thing, and you just got to be Adam, and I think that's more than fine. So you just got to get over your midlife crisis, buy a nice car, and keep it moving.
Buy a nice car.
You know, everyone with those 35-year-olds.
This is why I come to this podcast every week. You are my therapist.
Exactly. And you look at it, you go, well, we've all gone through it. You go, oh, you start comparing to other people who have like 10 times as much as you, and you go, well, you know what? I just appreciate my little lot in life and keep it moving, right?
Yeah, that's what I got to do, I guess.
Exactly. Keep it moving, make your goals, and you go, okay, I'm not where I want to be. Where do I want to be? I want to be on the air. I want to do this and do that, and you just got to keep taking those steps and keep getting reps and, keep telling people I want to be on the air and showing them that, hey, if you deny me, you're going to regret it later on when it does happen. Okay? No doubt about it.
That's the motivation.
And I will put it out there.
That is the motivation, really.
Yes, I'll put it out there.
Regret
Yes.
not taking a chance on me.
Exactly. In 5 years, I'll be visiting the studio and, trying to worm my way in for a segment or two. That's it. I will pop in and be like, hey, I want to come in the studio. And you'll be like, I can't.
I can make you a producer or something.
Exactly. So I do believe in you. I envision a day where you will have a radio show and we'll have fun with it. And then, 2 weeks later, you'll say something, get canceled. Or you'll get it. You know what's going to happen? You'll get the show and the station turns the country.
On air or something?
No. You'll get the show. We'll do all the prep. We'll get the first show rolling and the station will change the country.
It'll flip immediately.
Adam, bro, I know we like to do sports, but country is where it's at.
2 steps forward, 3 steps back.
Would you be a country DJ?
I mean,
spin the hits.
I'm assuming I signed a contract, so I guess I'm bound to that contract, right?
All right. You know who was bound to a contract and decided to resign from it?
Yeah.
Barry Trotz. And what an interesting story. So for those that don't know, because Barry Trotz, the head coach of the Washington Capitals, won the cup, it enacted a clause in his contract where it kicked in that he got 2 years and he got a set contract. Now, he's worth much more, and he knows that, and the Capitals know that. So in order for him to become a free agent, he wasn't fired. He had a deal in place. He resigned. And that was the only move he had to get more money and to really feel the respect. And that's what happened was Barry Trotz felt like, you know what, it shouldn't have got to this point. The Capitals should have came towards the end of last year when they had success, when they were, playing really well and said, hey, here's your extension. Let's bypass this clause that kicks in. So Barry Trotz is on the open market, and we talked about it. And I said right away, within 4 seconds of hearing the news, get him, go out there and get him. But unfortunately, when you read and scour the landscape, it's not going to happen. It's just a fan's dream, just a Red Wings fan dream to try and be relevant, go out there and improve the team. The Red Wings would be better, I think, as an organization with Barry Trotz running the team. But unfortunately, that's not Kenny Holland's MO. It's not going to happen. I feel like Jeff Blashill has the job, and they're going to roll with it. And but come hell or high water, Jeff Blashill is, the head coach of the Red Wings. It's disappointing because now there's a guy out there who just won the cup. He's white hot. He's got momentum, and I think that he would come in and command respect and get the guys to play a lot better. And I feel like you give him a couple more pieces, a couple good draft picks in 3 to 4 years, you might have a run in you.
I think you're absolutely right. If I'm Ken Holland, I'm on the phone. The moment that I find out that Barry Trotz is leaving Washington, look, as much as I like Jeff Blashill, I like him. I think he's a decent coach. I don't think he's great by any stretch of the imagination. I really expected more when he took over this young group or this young core. And really and truly, I got more of Mike Babcock. You let the veterans skate by with a free pass, and you're going to grind the young kids. And it doesn't sit well with me. I would totally go after Barry Trotz. I feel like he would infuse new life into that room. He'd be a different voice. I mean, for heaven's sakes, Jeff Blashill sounds exactly like Mike Babcock. Like, if you close your eyes, good luck distinguishing which one's which, right? You can't even tell them apart. So I would totally go out and get Barry Trotz if I was Ken Holland. Now, it's not going to happen. I think it's a big mistake by the Detroit Red Wings. I don't know what Jeff Blashill can bring to the room, to the organization, that he's going to help, squeeze another 3, 4, 5 wins out. I think Barry Trotz, you immediately insert him in there, This is a guy who's already won a Stanley Cup. This is a guy who's taken a team that just struggled in the playoffs, and they finally won it. On top of that, he's been around the block. He knows what he's doing. He's a great hockey mind. You listen to anybody, he's a great hockey mind. He is as good of a hockey mind as he doesn't have a neck. Do you know what I'm saying? The guy looks like he's a freaking giant snowman. Go get the giant snowman. If I'm the Detroit Red Wings, I'm getting the giant snowman, and I'm putting snowmen on all of my stuff. And we're selling it. We're selling it like hotcakes. Got to make that merch money, baby. So go get Barry Trotz. I want Barry Trotz. It's not going to happen. He's going to go to the Islanders. Watch him go to the Islanders and watch the Islanders win a Stanley Cup.
All right, let's set the table on this week's edition, episode 254 of this fine podcast.
254 times you've talked to me about stuff. Holy crap. Do you believe it?
Every week, man. It comes every Wednesday. It's just...
Do you realize, what is it, 254? Let me do some quickly. Go ahead. You set the table, and I'm going to come back with
254,
with
September 2013, straight through, man. Everyone knows it. Ken Cal recognized it, and he said, man, you guys are dedicated, and I appreciate the love that's being shown. This week, we're going to talk about the Detroit Lions. Some news was made regarding a player that the Lions inquired about. It seems like the only team that the Lions seem to be communicating with regarding player acquisition. We'll talk about the Lions and their contact with the New England Patriots. We'll talk about the Detroit Tigers. We got to reset and look at, okay, they're playing well, and you have a comparison to a team because even though they got spanked by the Reds in the opening game of that series, they've been playing a good brand of baseball, only 2 games under 500. You and I both are surprised at the quality of baseball that we've seen. And also, the Tigers are doing something unique, and it's something to talk about in terms of the fact that, hey, most baseball clubs have a 5-man rotation. The Tigers might be trying something different, and you and I will discuss the potential results of going to a 6-man rotation. And also, we got to talk about the Detroit Pistons. We'll talk about some news. Another player wants out of his current situation. Would it work here in Detroit? Could it be possible? Not likely. I hate to, bury the lead, but you know what? In terms of what we're going to talk about with the Pistons on Wednesday had the press conference for new head coach Dwayne Casey. We'll talk about the state of the Pistons, how the roster as is will shake up, and if there was a dream scenario in which we could acquire some players, what would that look like? And we'll discuss maybe some comparisons. Maybe who would we want to come here if there was a miracle scenario? But let's start with.
Wait, hold on. Do you realize 6 more shows? 6 more shows will mark 5 years of us doing this together.
That's 5 years, huh?
Yeah, 6 more shows.
Yeah, it's officially been 5 years. September of 2013.
It was actually back in July when we had the idea and we started putting things together, building the website, and kind of laying the foundation. But you're right.
I like how every week we do kind of like a recap of the whole nature of the whole podcast. But you know where we're at now? Now we're at the point where on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, all the fake accounts start up their accounts and follow us. So that's good. And 2, we are one of the
all
launching.
The bots follow us.
All the bots and eggs follow us. That's 1. And 2, people that are trying to get themselves over are trying to show fake love or real love or whatever it is and be like, I love Detroit Podcast. I love it. I love this. And I'm like, you know what? You guys are listening and saying, and know that if you show me a little love, I'll retweet you to the masses. And whether it's real or not, it doesn't matter. I kind of like it, but it's kind of funny.
Anything that inflates your
ego. Exactly. And the best thing is we got to be real and realize I know what you're doing. It's great because I do it too. It's great. I do it to other accounts, and that's what you're supposed to do. I love it. I love that people are like, hey, I started a podcast. Let's just throw out a tweet and see if this moron will retweet it to the masses. Of course I will. If you tell me you love me, of course I'll retweet it. Real quick before we talk about the Lions, I love topics, and I love how people kind of get down. So on Tuesday, I threw out a topic and said, hey, if I hear from the network gave out $10,000, would you change your affiliation? And somebody messaged us and said, hell yeah, for $10,000, I'll slap your guys' logo on my ass. So people come.
I love that guy, whoever he is.
Yeah, exactly.
I love him.
And I laughed, and you guys make it fun to follow us on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. You get it. You realize we're not serious. We're not breaking big-time news. We're just having a good time, having laughs. And if you check out the preview videos, thank you for those that have been clicking. It's fun. We're going to release some fun ones. Vito, to preview the Two Bad Hombres podcast this weekend. Vito had a little person on, and she has an Instagram account where she just shares the direct messages that guys send her. And I have a preview clip where I was taping it where someone said
was
that...
she in the studio?
No, on the phone.
Oh, on the phone.
She's from Ohio, and all she does is kind of share the nastiness that people send, and she threw out, like, most people that message her are into fetishes, and so she said that some of the common messages that she gets are people just message her that they want to throw her little ass around in the bedroom, and she said that, and I'm crying. I'm crying. Vito's like, oh, dude, you think it's rude?
So wait, hold on. Is Vito going to hook up with her or what?
I tried to go down. I asked a question. It might get cut out of the podcast. I asked a question. I said, "So what do you think about Vito?" And she's like, "On the spot." She's like, didn't know how to handle it, so it was a little bit weird and awkward. I should maybe play it as a preview clip or as at the end of a podcast. But I'm like, but Vito's like, no, she's a little bit older. But props to Vito, man. He went out there and got a fun guest, and she was cool. And it's fun in terms of the nature of the podcast. 5 years of this.
I feel like we need to hook Vito up with a girl. Just get him a girlfriend. Whether she be a little person or she be full grown.
Listen, I want to tell you something. You will be surprised. Listen to the first 20 minutes of this week's Two Bad Hombres. He uses a word that I never thought would come out of his mouth. I'll say it. Handy dandy.
What?
He said it. He said it. Yeah. He said it. He said it. It came out of his mouth. And I looked at him and he said, if I wish I was taping it. He said those words. It came out of his mouth. So listen.
I'm crying over here.
Yes, he said it.
Oh, no.
And when he said it, I couldn't believe it. And
I love Vito.
I was shocked.
The best thing ever was walking into U of T, going down the stairs to this random little recording studio, and running into this very, very small man. I'll be honest, when I first seen Vito, he shocked me. I was like, who's this guy? What is he doing?
Exactly.
Oh, Vito's the best. Oh, my God.
That's right. He's
like a cornerstone of this thing.
Fun times. All right.
So great, dude.
It was great.
We got stuff to talk about. What are we doing?
I had to derail it a little bit, right?
Oh, it's so good. I love when the show gets derailed.
Yes,
sir. It like goes way off the rails, rolls over,
it's okay.
Gets set on fire, and then somebody's over there pissing to put it out.
In the end, less Lions talk, more laughs is much better for us, right?
Oh, yes.
All right. When you heard the news that the Lions, obviously it's not really a surprise. You should go out there and inquire if Gronk is really out there. Some rumors got started that maybe, the relationship between Gronk and Bill Belichick has kind of diminished, and maybe he was on the trade block. 29-year-old tight end. The Patriots try to get out of contracts with guys kind of when they realize that they might take that turn for the worse in terms of their performance. And so it's really great that the Patriots reached out to the Lions and other teams. I think it was 4 teams. And it was great that there was some dialogue. And either way, if the Patriots had not reached out, the Lions definitely would have been upset, or they would not have been doing their job if they did not at least inquire about Rob Gronkowski. But it didn't work out because probably they're asking for too much. And it makes sense, right? They're probably asking for some significant picks in terms of maybe the second, third round. They're maybe asking for some productive players because even at 29, even though he is injury prone, he's still going to be a productive tight end. He is a security blanket for Tom Brady, a significant reason why that team is continuing to get to the postseason year in and year out. So I'm okay with the news that they didn't get him. It's okay. You know what? You inquired about him. There was situations in which you had discussions, and if it didn't work out, it didn't work out. So I feel like had Gronk been on the Lions, it would have been amazing. You got LeGarrette Blount and you got Rob Gronkowski. It just makes the game that much easier for Matthew Stafford. He would have been a massive, massive addition to the Lions. The offense would have been better. I feel like the Lions would have been instant playoff contenders. I would have sat here and said, yeah, the Lions will make the postseason.
I don't know if he'd be that big of an upgrade. I really don't. I mean, yeah, if we're playing fantasy football, right? He's definitely an upgrade over Eric Ebron. All right?
Yes,
we all agree. The thing is, in football, the best availability is availability, and Gronk is always hurt. Gronk's always hurt. In the last 5 years, he hasn't played an entire season. So how do you turn around and commit to whatever his contract is? I'd have to look it up. Commit to whatever his contract is, and know in good faith you just gave up whatever it was that they were asking. We don't know. Later on, we're going to play a little game on what you would give up to get Gronk. How in good faith do you give up either those draft picks, because that's what the Patriots want. They want draft picks. How do you give up those draft picks to go and get a guy who has the possibility to end up on IR or might just turn around and walk out the door? Because Gronk's been playing this game where he keeps 1 foot in the water, 1 foot on the sand, and he's like, I really like being the Rob Gronkowski that goes on the party boat and offers to pay people to have sex in front of me. And I really don't know if I want to do this whole football thing anymore. You got to realize, Rob Gronkowski, one of the smartest football players ever. This guy gets by on only his endorsement deals. He still has all of the money from his contracts. He's basically set. He's set for life. He could turn around right now, walk out that door. Doesn't have to worry about a damn thing because he was smart with his money. He only spends whatever they're paying him to chew bubblegum, to sport shoes, to wear Under Armour or whatever promotion he is doing. That's all he lives off of. This guy's got it figured out. He's good to go. So now, how are you going to turn around if you're Bob Quinn and in good faith invest, we'll say, 2-3 draft picks in a guy who has had nothing but back problems the last couple of years, who is constantly out there acting a fool? Not so much acting a fool to where he's running across Roger Goodell's desk and Goodell's got to pull him in and have a conversation with him, but he's out there and he kind of walks that line. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not like Ezekiel Elliott where he's on a float and he's lifting a girl's shirt up and showing her hoo-has, but this guy has his own party boat. And you know what kind of madness goes on that party boat? How, if you're Bob Quinn, do you go out and you say, yeah, this is great. Let's get this guy who, like you said, is 29, missed a whole bunch of games, and has had a couple back surgeries. Let's invest in him, and he's going to be the guy who's going to lead us to the promised land. I just don't know how you do that, and I don't think he makes you that much better. Yeah, I think he's an incredible talent. We both know this. I think last year I ended up taking him in the second round of our fantasy draft, in our family fantasy draft. That's how much I appreciate what this guy does. He is a top 5, top 10 pass catcher in all of football.
So what you're saying is you're okay with the fact that you got some tight ends, you keep bringing them in, you're trying them out, and if you have a good system, you don't need the biggest and baddest tight end in the world to come to your team. You can just handle it with your system, and as long as the Lions continue to get to the red zone and you have a strategy to get the ball from Stafford to the tight end, you could have Roberts be effective, you could have other tight ends, you could have the new tight end from Seattle be effective, you can have other opportunities, and maybe you go as well. One of our prominent strategies is going to be to get the ball to LeGarrette Blount as close to the goal line as possible. And if we get it in through running, or if we set up the opportunities to get to the red zone by using the tight end more, then that's fine too. You don't need Gronkowski on this roster.
I don't think you need an elite tight end to make your team a playoff contender or to make your team a Super Bowl caliber team. I think usually a tight end, that tight end position, it's special. It's usually that position that kind of puts you over the top. You know, I mean, you look at New England without Rob Gronkowski. I mean, they still have arguably the best quarterback in all of the NFL, possibly ever, right? You know that they're going to have a really efficient and effective offense because it's all dink and dunk, and the receivers that they have, they're small, slight guys who are speedy and can sit there and hit seams and creases, right? So you just dink and dunk it, and you move the ball down the field. And then they're going to have a running game that is basically pass-orientated. You know, they don't really have guys who are bruisers and run between the tackles. It's everything's out of the backfield, and you throw it, and it's all swing plays. So they're going to have a good offense. You add Gronk to that offense now becomes really special because you've got a big guy who can go across the middle. He's bigger, faster, more physical than whoever's lined up across from him, and he can do different things that most guys, those receivers that I was just talking about, they're not physically equipped to handle that. So I don't think you necessarily need him, but he's like the cherry on top for that offense.
What do you think the Patriots are asking for to acquire Gronkowski? And obviously, it didn't work out because it doesn't make sense. They probably were asking way too much in terms of what the Lions might be willing to give up, maybe a second-round pick, maybe a player. I had said and kind of got a good reaction in terms of just straight up Golden Tate for Gronk. I think it would be a perfect move. And people were like, well, Golden Tate fits our system. Golden Tate would be somebody that's going to get a lot of yards after the catch. It would upset the apple cart for Stafford if you let go of Golden Tate. But I said, look, the writing's kind of on the wall, but nobody's really kind of emphasizing it. Golden Tate's probably going to be gone because the Patriot way, if it's being applied to what the Lions are going to do, would indicate that an older player who wants big dollars, who's made it known that, hey, it's time to, show me the money, Johnny Manziel style, the 2 fingers up and cash. Yeah.
I like how we both just looked at each other.
Yeah, we know he wants the cash. And based on his performance, and he's looking around and going, damn, these wide receivers are making money. and he wants money. And so the Patriot way would indicate that Bob Quinn's going to be like, thank you for your service this year. We're going to, have another individual named Galladay kind of continue to take your place, and he'll learn from you, and he'll take your spot. But in that vein, I think that trade would have been perfect. Gronk, older veteran for Golden Tate. I think Tom Brady would have loved having Golden Tate on that roster.
I think he would.
You get rid of Brock, but I think that it maybe did not work out. But what do you think it would have taken if you're the Patriots side and you go, okay, this is what we want for Gronk? What would you have demanded?
Well, first off, contract-wise, it's just numbers. Okay. Just looking at numbers. I just pulled up their contracts, and Golden Tate has 1 year left on his deal at $7 million. Gronk's got 2 years left at $8 and $9 million.
See?
So
it's comparable.
It's comparable, and I believe you could make it work. You really could if you really wanted to. You can make that work. I find this to be really interesting because you're right. You're probably going to lose Golden Tate after this year. He's come out. He's been very vocal about wanting a new contract. He's essentially said that he doesn't want to go anywhere else. He wants to stay here. He wants to play here, but he wants to get paid. And Golden Tate deserves to get paid. I mean, if you go back and you look at his base salary when he signed his contract here, it was $1.5 million, and then it was $745,000. Like, what? How did you get paid less? Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then it all of a sudden ballooned. You got his 4.75, and then you got his $6 million, and now he's going to get 7. So then it escalated after his first 2 years. But he wants to get paid, and he deserves to get paid. He's been one of the premier slot wide receivers in the league. Almost every single year leads the league in yards after catch. I think this would be a really interesting trade. If you were to sit there and package Golden Tate, we've already talked. New England wants a draft pick. So what do you think it would be? A second round pick? Probably a second? I find it to be really interesting because I like Gronkowski. I think Gronkowski's really good. I think he's a matchup nightmare.
I feel like they might have asked for a second and a fourth. Maybe 2 picks.
2 picks?
Yeah. I feel like because they know he's going to be productive.
You're going to send Golden Tate, and you're going to send a second and a fourth.
No, I'm saying, step one, I would have just done straight up Golden Tate for
Gronk?
Yeah. Now, from the Patriots side, I would have said, no, we don't need Golden Tate. We just need 2 picks. Because
if I'm the Patriots, I think I'm taking Golden Tate all day.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm the Lions, I don't know if I want Gronk. And maybe I've got Honolulu blue glasses on, and maybe that's why I can't see it. But if I'm New England, you're basically swapping 29-year-old guys, right? The only difference is Golden Tate has this year left on his deal. So you're going to get out from under Gronk's contract, which is the next 2 years, and it's not like it's a massive contract. But I think you get a better player in Golden Tate, at least a guy who's physically more fresh, a guy who's not as damaged. And that's just because Gronk has had surgery after surgery to fix a bad back, on top of whatever else is ailing him. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, how many times do you have to see this guy go over the middle and just get rocked, and then he's got to get helped up by the entire training staff, and he has no idea where he is, So I don't know if I want Gronk, if I could have Golden Tate. From the Patriots, sign me up. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I think Golden Tate would be perfect for Tom Brady. I think he would fit in
like a glove.
Yes.
You're talking big time numbers. You're talking about
I think that's
Pro Bowl numbers.
Really interesting. I think it's a really interesting trade scenario. I think it's an awesome concept.
I felt like that was the best fit because you're getting rid of a guy that maybe knows he's going to be let go, and you add a piece that could be awesome in your red zone, and you just take that chance, and then that would be a win now kind of move. Mm-hmm. But it's just one of those things where I don't think it's going to happen. I feel like the Lions are going to roll with what they got, and they're going to try and go with the tight ends that don't make that much money.
Well, let's look at it this way: would Gronk make this team a playoff contender?
Yes.
And do you think 100%. They would help them win that elusive playoff?
If he could stay healthy. If he could stay healthy, he would get 8 to 10 touchdowns this year.
Yeah.
No doubt. The Lions are going to be in the red zone. And what do we remember? What was one of the awful games they played versus Pittsburgh? Got into the red zone so many times they couldn't capitalize.
Atlanta.
Right. They couldn't capitalize. So that's why they went out and got.
Essentially the 1 yard line.
Yeah, that's why they essentially got LeGarrette Blount, and then they're making moves and things like that. So I do think that they're going to be more efficient this year in the red zone, and that'll be a good thing for the Lions.
All right. So what would you have given up to get Rob Gronkowski? Would you have given up a 4th round pick?
Yes,
I think we both agree.
Yes. I would have said...
What about a 3rd?
That's the sticking point is if I was going to do 2 picks, I would not have done a 2nd and a 4th. I would have maybe done a 3rd and a 5th and just gone a little bit lower, or 1 pick, a 3rd, and maybe a lower down player and things like that. Because you have to give up something. I feel like if it was going to happen, I feel like the Lions would have had to given up more than they would have wanted. Maybe they would have had to given up Galladay, or maybe they would have had to given up a young player that would have maybe hurt them a little bit, so they weren't willing to do it.
What if they were asking for somebody from your secondary, not say a Darius Slay, not say a Tease Tabor, or Glover Quinn, but you had to give up somebody from your secondary because I think we can both agree secondary is really deep on this team. That's probably on your defensive side.
Would you have done Jared Davis and a fifth and a sixth?
No. Ooh, a fifth and a sixth?
Yeah, no. A fifth or a sixth?
No, not at all.
Not Jared Davis.
Not at all. No. Because
he's a cornerstone linebacker.
Yeah, that's you went out and you drafted him where you drafted him because you feel he's going to be that impactful for this team, not just last year, not just this year, but years, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the line, if he's healthy enough and can play that long. So no way. But I would consider maybe giving up somebody from my secondary. Like I said, not an immediate starter, but maybe a depth guy. Maybe Quandre Diggs. I like Quandre Diggs, but maybe I give up Quandre Diggs, and maybe I give up. I would do the third and the fifth. I could see that. Now the third and the fifth round pick, I think Bob Quinn gets value from that spot when drafting. And I really like Quandre Diggs. I like what he brings. I think last year, he took a gigantic step forward in his play on the field in the way they utilized him. And I'm expecting more of that this year. But I could see giving up Quandre Diggs and a third and a fifth next year to go get Gronk this year and have him next year. And I could see that working, and I would be totally okay with that. I have an issue with giving up a second.
Sure.
I don't want to give up a second because I think good football teams turn that second round pick into an immediate impact starter. And you can usually get more and better value from your second round than you do from your first round.
Yeah, the Rob Gronkowski talk excited us. I think, we were all hoping. If you follow us on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, you know one of the most polarizing subjects is Matthew Stafford. And in coming weeks, we'll talk about his performance, what we expect, because he's the biggest piece on the team. And I do feel like that his support level has gone up a little bit, but there's still a significant portion of the fan base that is still like, wait and see, hey, not supporting him. And I want to talk to you in coming weeks more in depth and talking to you about what does Matthew Stafford kind of got to do, in this season, in 2018, to kind of bring along those that don't support him. Because at this point in time, when we throw out polls, people want to see him perform versus real teams and put up numbers versus great opponents and not just against the crumb bums of the league, and they want to see playoff success. So I want to see and talk about in coming episodes, talking about Matthew Stafford further, what we expect of him, what can we realistically see from him in 2018, and what does he got to do to bring along those that don't support him, because it's still a big number. If he doesn't have success in 2018, the critics are just going to get louder and louder. And I can't wait to talk about it in coming episodes. All right, stay with us. We're going to come back and talk about the Detroit Pistons. Some players across the NBA want out. I can't wait to talk about some Piston basketball. New head coach had his press conference. And we'll delve into that just a little bit coming up next on this episode of Doc and Jock. Let me tell you about our host site, Podomatic.com. When Adam and I first started this project, we never thought in a million years we would record 1,000 podcasts. But we have. 5 years, we've recorded 1,000 podcasts. We've only used one host site. Why do we use Podomatic? Super easy. Adam and I, we record every week. We've now added several other shows to the network, and we've been able to grow a strong following because we use a great host site. Podomatic.com offers you the chance to have quality audio, quality links. Look, just this week, we had Dr. Tommy John on, all the way from California, and he was sharing stories about, the Tommy John surgery, his dad, and now we're able to share a great link with him. He's going to share it with everybody. That's how you grow your network. You got to have a great host site. So if you're looking to start a brand new podcast, Doc and Jock, Vito, all the hosts on the network, we're going to recommend one host site and one host site alone, Podomatic.com. So, cuz the Detroit Pistons have named their next head coach, Dwayne Casey's had a chance to address the media and, like always, kind of selling us on why this roster is going to be good. And unfortunately, I know you and I just we're playing fantasy GM. I know we want to go out there and get LeBron James. I know we want to go out there and get Kawhi Leonard. It was actually surprising to me that he actually wants out of that program. I know sometimes if you have affiliation to LA and you're tired of the way that your injury was handled or portrayed in the media, your teammates blasted you, you're not happy. But in terms of where you're at basketball-wise, in terms of success, Kawhi was going to get a supermax deal, big money. He wanted out. And so naturally, you and I are like, oh, can we get Kawhi Leonard? But then you read and you realize just how bad Stan Van ran this situation. The Pistons are capped, bro. It's tough. We can't go out and get them. The Pistons are paying the luxury tax. They're paying Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson, Blake Griffin so much money that you can't even go out there and basically bring back Anthony Tolliver, who, which is shocking, average 9 points, is going to expect double his salary. 9 points in the NBA gets you double the salary year to year? Shit, man, we should have stopped podcasting. We should have figured out how to shoot hoops. But in the end, what sucks is we want to improve the roster. The only thing they can do is try and unload Andre Drummond. That is the only way you can improve this roster, is if you lop off that salary. They're not going to do it because of the fact that everyone's going to try and fleece you. You're not going to get really quality value. Most people are going to say, you know what, might as well keep Andre Drummond, keep his rebounds, and take what he offers you. And you have to have really realistic expectations that he's going to go out there and average, 15 points and 20 rebounds, most of the time. And so unfortunately, the tough part is most fans do not believe in the status quo. They don't believe in this roster. Nobody's happy. Nobody thinks that this team is going to be successful. Nobody really wants the team to be a 6-7 seed and get blown out every year by Boston, Toronto, and Cleveland. They don't want that. And so the path to success will be Dwayne Casey rallying the troops, getting everybody on board, and winning with this group. And unfortunately, for the Pistons to win, they're going to have to roll with this bunch. And you and I go, oh, really? No, we want Kawhi Leonard. We want to be like, look, I'll trade you Andre, Blake, and Reggie for Kawhi Leonard. But it's just a fan trade because we always got to be realistic in that when the other side hears that, they go, no. And they go, okay, here's what we want. We want your first-round pick in 2019. We want your first-round pick in 2020. We want your first-round pick in 2021. And throw in Blake Griffin. You were like, damn, that's what you want? That's what they would request. And San Antonio, I feel like, is going to make the move that's best for them. And it's probably not going to involve an agreed-upon deal with the Pistons. It's just not going to work out.
What about this? I love playing the what if. This whole podcast is what if today. Mm-hmm. All right, so what if Kawhi Leonard was to sign? So you do understand, if he stays with San Antonio, he can stand to earn up to $35 million more, because there's a rule where if you stay with the team that drafted you, they can go above and beyond whatever the supermax is. So what if he stays with San Antonio? They work out a sign and trade where he basically signs the deal, gets paid that boatload of money and then some, and then San Antonio turns around and trades him to the Pistons.
Oh, all right, that'd be awesome.
So you're taking on another massive contract, one that will be bigger than Andre Drummond. But in return, you're sending Andre Drummond, you're sending Stanley Johnson, and you'll send next year's first-round pick. So again, you're hurting yourself long-term. You're sending next year's first-round pick, and then you'll send a protected first-round pick the following year or the year after. You can figure that out however you want to do it. What would you say to something like that? So the reason I say Andre Drummond and the reason I say Stanley Johnson, for a couple reasons. One, you need to lop off some salary. So Andre Drummond has the second largest salary on this team. But I feel like Andre Drummond would fit in perfectly for what Greg Popovich likes to do. You've seen what he was able to do with a guy like Tim Duncan. Now, I'm not comparing Andre Drummond to Tim Duncan, but what I'm saying is Greg Popovich finds a way to maximize players' talent. And I think he could maximize what Andre Drummond can do. And I think he could hide some of his fatal flaws in the things that drive us absolutely crazy. So I think Andre Drummond going to San Antonio could become the player that we all wanted him to be. Or at least it would appear that he would become the player that we all wanted him to be. Do you know what I'm saying? And then you send Stanley Johnson. And the one thing about Stanley Johnson is usually a really good defender. Pop likes guys who can sit there and play defense and try hard and give a good effort. Stanley Johnson's working on his shot. He's not as good of a shooter as Kawhi Leonard is, but he's a defensive-minded guy. He can go out there. He can do a couple things. I think Stanley Johnson, a change of scenery helps him out. So you're sending two guys that I think Pop will either A, maximize or wouldn't mind getting his hands on. And again, you're sending salary that is very similar both ways, and they're getting those first-round picks.
Okay, so obviously, like we always do when you got a computer in front of you, I threw it into the NBA Trade Analyzer, and it shows strongly in favor of San Antonio winning the deal. Andre Drummond and Stanley Johnson, it has been assessed as too much for Kawhi Leonard. So it would probably have to be not Andre Drummond or not Stanley Johnson. You got to take one of them out and involve draft picks. So would you do Kawhi Leonard for Stanley Johnson and 2 first-rounders?
Yeah, but you can't afford that.
So you can't. See, that's what I'm saying. You can't afford it. So
you got to send Andre or you got to send Blake.
Okay, so Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, in a heartbeat, dude. There's your big 3, right?
Yeah.
You can Reggie Jackson can go sit there and sit on the bench all day long. There's your big 3. And I don't even like Blake Griffin. I think he was horrible. I think that was the dumbest move Stan Van Gundy did.
It's just hard. It's just really hard to make it work because of the fact that the contracts are so big.
But since you got it up, put Andre Drummond in there.
Okay.
And then put next year's first-round pick.
It doesn't do it. Just player for player.
Just player for player. All right, we'll put Andre Drummond in there. See what happens.
Oh, okay. Kawhi for Andre straight up?
Yeah.
Okay.
See what happens. And then you're going to have to throw a first-round pick in there. Mm-hmm. It's probably going to tell you no because of the salary.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Leo. Kawhi Leonard.
Kawhi's still on that old salary.
Yeah, no, it's the stronger side of the trade is Andre Drummond. They just feel like
really,
yeah.
What is wrong with it? Does this thing not watch basketball? Now, here's the thing. This is the issue I have with Kawhi Leonard right now. So he's hurt. He has never played an entire 82-game season. So a little bit nervous there. Some question marks for me. Yeah, I understand Pop's kind of a nutcase, and he's really difficult to sometimes deal with. But usually, people who are great at what they do are difficult to deal with. Yeah, I feel like Kawhi kind of took his ball and went home and pouted. And I don't like babies. I don't like babies. It's one of the things that drives me absolutely insane about Andre Drummond. I feel like Andre Drummond's a giant child all the time. You know? Like, he gets benched because he can't hit a free throw, and he sits there and he pouts the entire game. Do you know? I absolutely hate that. So are you trading one baby for another baby? I feel like, in this case, Kawhi Leonard is the better baby. I would totally take Kawhi over Andre, and I think everybody else would too. He plays defense. The guy can hit a three-pointer. He can dribble the ball. Things that Andre doesn't do or can't do, whether it be because of his size or the position he plays.
Yep, this trade failed on ESPN because the Spurs are over the luxury tax threshold with this trade, and the incoming aggregate salaries exceeded what's allowed via the 125% plus $100,000 rule. You got to cut $100,000 from the Spurs' incoming trade value to make this trade successful.
Wow.
So that's not that bad. It's just maybe $100,000 difference.
So again, your salary cap situation does not even allow you to get into the conversation with the Spurs because Stan went and screwed this up so royally. Yeah. Imagine if you didn't bring Blake in here. Let's pretend like Blake never happened. Again, what ifs? Blake never happened. So you've got your 12th. You have your 12th pick, right? Maybe even better because you might have played worse down the stretch.
Exactly.
So we'll say you got anywhere from a 10 to a 12 overall pick. Jeez Louise, could you imagine? You could work out a sign and trade with San Antonio. They could sign him, pay him the ridiculous amount of money. You could bring him in. You could send your 10, 11, or your 12 pick for this year over there. You could attach a protected pick for, 2018, for 2020. You know, it would be like top 5 or top 10 protected. Dude, you could have your star.
Right.
You could have a legitimate star. Blake Griffin's not a legitimate star anymore. All right. His first 3 years in the league, maybe. Now, no.
Here's what's so frustrating.
This dude was jumping over Kias.
Here's what's so frustrating with how the Pistons did this. The strategy should have been to lose epically and build to the draft. Have strong draft analysis. Go through the draft. That's the only way to win. You're not going to attract. You attracted You went out and picked up the guy that is the most polarizing figure in terms of basketball circles. Most people don't view Blake Griffin as a superstar, and you're paying him like that. You went out and got a guy that the LA Clippers were like, yes. When the phone call came through, they were like, yeah. They offered him, they told him to his face, yeah, you're here for life, bro. And then they got rid of him. And it's just, why? Why would they do that? Trades don't happen like that. You don't just give up a guy who is quote unquote a superstar like that.
How do you think it went when the Clippers got that call?
They had a party.
Oh my God!
They were like, Stan Van's a sucker.
They all needed new pants because the pants were stained.
They were like, how did Stan Van agree to this? And that's just the way it went. I really do feel like the Pistons
do you
got
realize
hoodwinked.
that we're still paying Josh Smith?
Yeah.
I just scrolled down and see that Josh Smith's salary counts against the cap still.
So that's
Are you serious?
And so that's why I think the fans are dormant on the Pistons. The stock is down. You're just going to have to try and win with them. And then, again, here's the biggest thing with hope. You got to hope that Reggie, Blake, and Andre stay healthy. But here's the thing. What are the chances? Less than 30 that they're going to all stay healthy. It's less than 30% chance they all stay healthy. And if they do, great. You get the 6th seed and you get blown out in the first round.
All right, so if you have to pick one who's going to play, we'll say, not even play 82 games. We'll say play 80 games, right? Mm-hmm. Which one of those 3 guys will play 80 games?
No fucking way.
Which one? Andre Drummond.
Yes. That's the one I picked too, right?
Yeah.
I don't see Blake playing more than 65 games on a good season, right?
Hey, what the fuck you talking?
That's right. I'll tell you, Tony Montana. Reggie Jackson, who knows? Who knows how he's going to come back and bounce back, you know? You've seen a couple games last season, but...
All we got to hope for is the magic 3-ball starts going down when Blake starts taking them.
Yeah.
Look, if they start going down and you can start winning and you play some defense, there's hope. There's hope that you can get to the 6th seed and 5th seed and do some things with some defense and draining the 3. But in terms of championship success, getting back to the Eastern Conference Final, you got to have more talent, and that's just the way it is.
With Kawhi checking out, do you think that... So, like, the Spurs have had this mystique about them, right? They've had a run where they were kind of considered a dynasty, and they've always been one of those teams that are really good, that everybody strives to try to emulate. And I think they're still considered a dynasty. I'm using finger quotes here, even though they haven't won championships in a little bit, do you know? But they're always one of those teams that you've got to get over. They're like a hurdle, kind of like the Pistons were to Jordan. But they have stretched it out for so long. I mean, you got to realize the Pistons had to go up against them when they were winning championships. And now you fast forward to 2018, and they're still a really, really good team that is always in contention in the West. Do you think this mystique about the Spurs has now gone away with Kawhi saying, I want out?
No, I don't think the mystique is gone. And sometimes there are other reasons as well. Sometimes it just, when in terms of players showing love and things like that, sometimes it just, there's issues that pop up. And you got to show love to Kawhi Leonard. He wasn't happy with how the whole medical thing went down. His teammates called him out. You can't have that happen. At the same time, life in LA, if that's where you're from, has a lot of strong suits as well. And sometimes a change is needed, and that's just the way it is. And just because Kawhi leaves doesn't tell me that the Spurs run is over. They'll go out there and they'll retool. They're going to get some pieces for him if they trade right.
As long as Pop is in charge,
they will get pieces in place.
I gotcha.
In a year or two. They'll be back in the mix. Don't worry about it. Now, finally, before we take our final timeout, have you peeked at the NBA mock drafts? I think by and large, from what I'm reading, the Suns are probably going to take DeAndre Ayton. Yeah. That's the number one guy across all the board. And some of the top 5 that I see, DeAndre Ayton, Luka Doncic, Jaren Jackson to the Hawks, Mohamed Bamba to the Grizzlies, and Marvin Bagley to the Mavericks. Is kind of how I'm seeing a lot of mock drafts shake up. But DeAndre Ayton is a guy that's a freak of nature. He's probably going to be very productive for the Suns if they do, in fact, take him number 1.
Yeah, I think so, too. Did you watch any of his games when he played for Arizona?
Yeah.
He's a freak. He's an absolute freak. There were times where he completely dominated an entire game.
Yeah.
But then he would sometimes disappear. And that's my issue with him.
Right.
And again, he's a freshman. What about Jaren Jackson, though? Jaren Jackson is flying up mock drafts.
Potential.
Do you think Tom Izzo totally boned Jaren Jackson
of course he did.
In the way he utilized him?
Of course he did. I think there might be some truth to the fact that Tom Izzo does this on purpose to keep their value down so they don't leave. I do think that, because why is it that these young cats are not being featured right away? Jaren Jackson should be on the floor quite a bit and screw defense. Look, if you know you're going to have a one-and-done player, you got to have some insight. If he's one-and-done, play 40 minutes. Get the most out of him. Well, what did you get out of Jaren Jackson? You wrote him on the bench. You know what I mean? You didn't have him in key moments in a lot of games. Why? Okay, most people don't play defense. You got to make up for it. Look, take his strengths. And if you weren't able to develop him, then why did you go and put him on your roster?
Blows my mind that you say that, and I think it's interesting. I think that's a interesting topic that maybe we should revisit.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, what are you going to say? It's an opinion. It could be an opinion, but the way you look at it and you go, why is it that Tom Izzo has these one-and-done guys? You bring them in, and Miles Bridges kind of played out like that. Why did he look at Nick Ward? In and out of the lineup. I feel like you're not playing the best. I mean, look, I'm basing this on emotion. When you look at the final game and you had a fifth-year senior who nobody thought would play that many minutes on the floor, and as opposed to Jaren Jackson, who's much more talented, he looks at that and goes, oh, I'm out of here. And so now the NBA, look, you can also say that regarding Tom Izzo, but at the same time, the NBA values potential. And when your name is shown out there and when you work hard and you can get yourself in that position, I think Jaren Jackson's going to have a struggle first couple of years like most players do. But in the end, in 5 years, that dude's going to be pretty successful, I believe. But right now, Miles Bridges, if you take him, will have earlier success now. But I think the ceiling's a little bit higher for Jaren Jackson down the road.
It just has blown my mind how, if you go back to how their season ended, right? Jaren Jackson's sitting on the bench, and all of us are like, well, what? Why is he on the bench? What's going on here? And now you fast forward to mid-May, June, And you just see this guy at the combine, you see him working out, and you see him just soaring up these mock drafts, and everybody is talking about him. He's the one everybody's talking about. It's not Miles Bridges.
Right.
Nobody's talking about Miles Bridges.
Third, in a lot of mock drafts. Third.
It blows my mind how Tom Izzo wasn't able to see this and wasn't able to address this or like the writing's on the wall, man. Like this dude looks like he's a freak of nature, and yet you screwed it up. How? And like, I love Tom Izzo, right? I'm a Michigan slap, but I love Tom Izzo. Yep. I think I give him a lot of respect. I think he's awesome.
Big year ahead. I hope he comes back, man. I hope he can take some of the recruits.
How do you mess this up?
Yeah, how do you mess it up? All right, final timeout. We'll come back. Final segment of the podcast. We'll peek into the Detroit Tigers, the week that was, some news regarding what they're trying to do that maybe is outside the box. We'll talk about it next on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Thank you for your continued support. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you for allowing us to keep the lights on, the studio mics hot here in our Sterling Heights studio. Free and easy way to support us. Go check out our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. You can see what show airs when. You can see which host is airing these podcasts. If you're prone to shop online, you can take care of all your online shopping needs by clicking through the Amazon banner on our website. If you're going to buy tickets to the Tigers, Pistons, Red Wings, Lions, just stop one additional place, DetroitSportsPodcast.com, and you can take care of all your online shopping needs. Thank you so much for your continued support. We greatly appreciate it. We couldn't be able to record daily podcasts without it. Go visit DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Because I'm also thankful for the fact that after 5 years, companies continue to reach out with us and we have conversations. Thankful to announce that we're now corporate partners with the United Shore Professional Baseball League. You can check out Jimmy John's Field. Great action. And I went out there. Me and the missus went out and checked out the action, and it was a quality time. We had fun. The sight lines were amazing. You can buy tickets at uspbl.com. They got great promotions. It really is a good time if you're out there in Utica and you have an opportunity to go out there and check out Jimmy John's Field. Everything is relatively affordable. You can have a great time, and the quality of play is really solid. The managers are working hard. The players there, they've had 21 athletes from that league sign on with teams in the major league. So if you're an East Sider, you're missing out if you're not checking out the United Shore Professional Baseball League, and I look forward to building the relationship with them. You been out there?
No, I haven't checked it out yet, but I really want to go.
Yeah.
It looks awesome. What's your team, though? Is it the Unicorns?
My team is the
Beavers?
The Woolly Mammoths.
The Woolly Mammoths?
I like the Woolly Mammoths. They're fun. And what I like about baseball in town is you know what? When you have baseball as the backdrop, you can have good conversation with the missus. She was like, wow, it's been 3 years. Why didn't we come out here sooner? I'm like, well, I don't know. But we're going to go out there a lot more. It was great. We got in and out of the parking lot super easy. So we here at the network, we're super thankful to be corporate partners with the United Shore Professional Baseball League. USPBL.com. Definitely check them out. All right, speaking of quality baseball, the Detroit Tigers, prior to getting spanked by the Reds, had put together a solid 5-game winning streak. They played well on the road versus the White Sox. Some things were coming together. You had good starts from several of your starting pitchers. And now we got to talk about a player whose performance, now obviously versus the Reds, when you drop that baseball in the outfield, people were like, oh boy, his struggles in the outfield might really limit his trade value. But Nick Castellanos, in terms of his bat, I feel like his offense and his productivity has allowed him to shine and put him in the forefront as a guy that's worked hard and is a hitter that has kind of lived up to potential. I like what Nick Castellanos is doing at the plate. Can we just figure out how to get him to play outfield a lot better? Man,
how about we just move him to first base?
They won't do it.
I don't understand why.
Gardenhire, interview after interview, says we're not doing it because he's already had to struggle to learn the outfield. Now he's going to struggle to learn first base.
But isn't he going to be a first? Don't you project him to be your first baseman of the future?
What he's saying in code is we don't think he can play first base. He can't play. He's a solid hitter who can't play defense.
Jesus. So he's what? He's your DH?
That's a problem.
Is that what he is?
Right now, he's a player without a position. Did you see how bad that play was to allow the grand slam?
It's awful.
Oh, it was, people on our Twitter page, Anti-Detroit Podcast, said
like Jose Canseco?
Jose Canseco-esque. Like, catch the damn ball. How do you not catch the ball?
Yeah.
But What do you go out there and trade him for? That's the problem.
My stepdad when that happened. Dude.
What'd he say?
I guess I can say it. It's our podcast. We can say whatever we want. He was like, God damn it. He's a motherfucker. Yeah. He was like, catch the goddamn ball. He's like, what are you doing? Oh, he was so pissed.
Yeah.
He was sitting in his recliner, sat up from his recliner.
What are you doing?
Slammed the leg shut, and he shut the TV off. He was like, fuck this shit.
4 runs.
He was so mad.
4 runs. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So,
not good, dude.
But his hitting, on the other side, is quality.
Incredible. So what would you do? Would you keep him or would you trade him? I mean, this is a guy who you yourself have said he's hitting the ball like crazy right now, right? I mean, he has moments in time where he looks like a generational hitter, where Miguel Cabrera-esque. And then he has other times where he goes on these streaks where he can't hit the broadside of a barn. And then we've already discussed how he plays in the outfield, and we've discussed how he plays defense. I project him as a first baseman. I don't understand how you can't play first base. Like, first base is where you go when you're old, fat, and decrepit. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's always been a spot where you can kind of hide a guy who's defensively flawed. You either hide them, you usually hide them at first base. First base or right field. So Nick Castellanos is not fat. He's a pretty athletic guy for the most part. I feel like it would just be natural for him to go hang out at first base. If he can't learn how to play first base, but all he can do is hit, and he's hitting the cover off the ball right now, don't you have to consider trading him to get other assets in here, something that's going to make your team better? Because this rebuild is not complete. This rebuild, we're in the early infancies of this rebuild right now. We've got at least 2.5 more years before we can say, hey, we're just about through this thing.
Unfortunately, we got to use the P word. We got to be patient with Nick. That's the way it is. We don't like it, but he's going to be in the outfield.
How long has this guy been up here now?
They are allowing him with what they're doing because they are in a rebuild, because this is not a team that's poised to win a championship. They're going to let him actually use 2018 to learn the outfield. This is what it is. Unfortunately, there's some growing pains with it.
Wouldn't you let him learn? Wouldn't you let him learn first base? I look, okay, so Victor's not coming back next year, right?
Right.
Okay, so your DH is gone. Miguel Cabrera, you can't trade him because his contract is an albatross and it is way too much money. So he can't stay healthy playing first base. He's always hurt. He becomes your DH. Who's your first baseman now? Is Hicks going to be your first baseman of the future? Is that what you're telling me? Nope. Hicks is going to be your first baseman of the future? Why wouldn't it be Nick Castellanos? You put Castellanos over there. You find somebody who can play right field, somebody who doesn't need a Vespa to get around, and somebody who can catch a damn ball when it's hit in the air to them. All right, you put Nicky C at the corner. He came up as a third baseman. I know it's different, but it's similar.
But now
it's a corner infield spot.
You have to take into account that maybe Miggy does not want to be DH. He doesn't want to just sit around.
I don't care what Miggy wants at this point.
Hey,
I don't give a shit. Mickey, you can't stay healthy. I need you to sit there and play games. You can't play games. Look, we play roughly, 6 to 7 games a week. I need you to be in at least 5 of them, bro. And you know how many you're in right now? It's a donut. It's 0. So I don't give a shit what Miggy wants.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what the Tigers are saying, and that's what's going to happen. Ron Gardenhire, open to the media, talks and says, we are going to let Castellanos learn in the outfield. And you know what else he said? We are going to confirm that with the emergence of Blaine Hardy, realizing that Zimmerman kind of does a little bit better with extra rest, they are going to utilize a 6-man roster. What do you make of it?
I think a 6-man rotation is great. I think it's a
great,
good
right?
idea.
A little bit out of the box thinking, yep.
Yeah, like Blaine Hardy has been playing out of his mind. You can make the argument. I know he's only played in a couple games compared to a lot of the other guys. He's your most consistent pitcher. He gives you the best chance to win on a nightly basis. You know, him and Matt Boyd, and I know Matt Boyd got lit up the other night, but they're your 2 best guys you got. And they're going to give you the best chance to win. And this is a season where, yeah, the losses are just as important as the wins, but you're going to roll guys out there because your job as a major league player is to get a W every single game. And I know me and you both want them to be in the top 5 when everything is done for next year's draft, which means you're finishing in the bottom 5. But I think it's awesome. Blaine Hardy looks like he's reinvented himself. You know, he worked on some things. He's now come up, and every time he's out there, he gives you a chance to win a game. And he's got the best whip on the team right now. He's got the overall best ERA. He does a really good job limiting guys getting on base, limiting home runs. He limits the opposition, and that's what you want. I think it's awesome. I think, like you said, out of the box thinking. This is something that we need to see, right? So this is like sabermetrics. You see some good numbers. You see a guy who's doing some good things, and yeah, he's been kind of your backup. You know, Zimmerman goes down. All right, let's bring Blaine in. Lariano goes down. Let's bring Blaine in. You know, let's do this. Let's do that. You're seeing that he's productive. So now let's expand this out. Let's roll with the 6-man rotation. Let's do something a little different, something out of the box. The numbers are telling us that he gives us the best shot to win every single day. Let's make him part of this rotation. I think it's awesome. On top of it, you save a guy like Michael Fulmer. You help save his arm. We've already discussed it. We think that that's going to be an elbow issue that's ready to go boom at any moment. So if you're dead set on keeping Michael Fulmer, give him an extra day rest too. You know, skip him a start occasionally. Why not? I think it's an awesome idea.
Now, with the success of the 5-game winning streak, really dominating teams that are less than you, you're only a couple games out of Cleveland, and you're playing well. You're surprising everybody. It's fun to watch. People are invested, and I agree with you that they are at the start of the rebuild, but there's also talk, too, that, you know what, if the division's that bad, you have an opportunity maybe to win it by default. Maybe you don't just blow it up at the trade deadline. Maybe you just wait to blow it up when the season ends. It's going to be interesting to see in the next 5 to 6 weeks who performs well and where the Tigers are at, because if they keep winning, should they go out there and be competitive, it's going to put Al Avila to the test because of the fact that, you know what, do you blow up a team that's over 500? Do you blow up a team that's maybe even in first place? That would be highly, highly unusual. But at the same time, you do have to kind of take a long-term view of the Detroit Tigers, and a lot of these players won't be here. But heck, give them credit. Give them credit for playing well. Give them credit for being in every game. It's exciting. And it kind of harkens back to 2006 when the team kind of had Jim Leland and they were out there and they were like, oh, you know what? This is an opportunity for us to really look at a team that most thought back then in 2006 that it was going to take time for Jim Leland to put everything together. He had that epic post-game speech after a game and they took off. What's been more impressive? Because both teams are impressive for different reasons. The 2018 Tigers or that 2006 team who caught fire and even got to the World Series?
That 2016 was so special. Like they captured everybody in Detroit's heart, right? Like that was the team. You know what I'm saying? It was just a bunch of guys. They went out there, they grinded every game. They played in over their head. Like for that entire season, they played over their head. It was absolutely bonkers. But I think the way this team is playing is a little bit more impressive. And I say that because you came into it expecting having a Hall of Fame first baseman in Miguel Cabrera. He went down with a bicep injury. You've got a pitching rotation that at times is being held together with duct tape, and you're now going to a 6-man rotation like we just talked about. And there was no expectations for this team.
You finished?
This team, no, I'm not. This team, we all thought they were going to be a dumpster fire all year long. And yeah, I understand that the division is absolute crap right now, and that's part of the reason why they're kind of hanging around. But I think what they're doing right now, the fact that they go out and they grind out every single game I
want to talk to you.
I want to take the board away from you. Look at Tuesday night's game, right? They're down 9-0, and they somehow put up 5 runs in the 9th. That impresses me. You know, I find that to be awesome. I find it to be the fact that this team can go out there and that they're willing to grind it out every single night, day in, day out. I think it's awesome. That 2016 was absolutely special. I think that 2016 was much more special. I think what's going on with this team right now is a little bit more impressive.
I'm going to disagree with you, obviously, and say that the 2016 was really, really impressive. Mm-hmm. Here's why. You just had a young cat come up, draft pick. You had Jim Leland. Most people thought that team wasn't going to do much at all. And all it took was a manager to kind of put together this misfit group of talent. And what was interesting about that team was it wasn't the most talented. It was a good mix of veterans and young cats. And you had these young cats come out. And what's impressive is most first-year guys, even though Justin Verlander was drafted high, most first-year guys don't come out.
You had 3 All-Stars on that team, though.
You did, but in the end, it was a collection. It was a new team assembled, and you had young pitchers out there trying to go out there and establish themselves. You got to remember, Justin Verlander was a rookie, and he went out there and shocked everybody with his performance. He was a bulldog, and what happened was, at that time, you got to remember where the Tigers were. They had a collection of talent that many people felt like, you know what, it's not that good. We got this manager. We're going to try to bring it all together. The teams weren't that good up until 2006. Right now, you got to remember, the payroll on the Detroit Tigers is really elevated. It's over $100 million. You got, Miguel Cabrera, you got Victor Martinez, you got a bunch of pitchers that, whether you state that they're overpaid or not, I think that overall, talent-wise, this team, in terms of the high-end talent, a little bit better than the high-end talent, Kenny Rogers. Come on, that was a guy past his prime.
All-star.
Pudge Rodriguez.
All-star.
Yes, they were very,
Don't forget about Maglio.
Don't forget about Maglio Ordonez. And I think that what made 2006 impressive was it just needed that spark. It needed that light, and that was Jim Leland. And what impressed me about that team was the ride that they went on basically never stopped.
I mean, if you go back and you look at that team, right, you have my boy Brandon Inge. I love
Brandon Inge.
I had his jersey until I took his name off of it. But you had, looking at the team, so you had an early Andrew Miller.
Yep.
All right. He ended up growing up to be a really, really good bullpen pitcher. Ooh, Nefi Perez. Remember that? You had Placido Polanco, who at the time was...
I met him last week.
Him and his gigantic head.
Yep.
He was an awesome, second baseman. Get him, and I get Maglio confused all the time. Placido's got that ginormous head. Maglio played in the outfield. Anyways, you had Fernando Rodney, who's still a reliable bullpen arm. I'm just going through names on this list here. We've already named the All-Stars. Then you had Justin Verlander, who's probably going to go in the Hall of Fame.
Todd Jones, the grinder.
Yeah, Todd Jones. You had Zoom Zoom on that team before Guitar Hero got him. But I feel like that was a really good collection of talent. You had, like you said, veterans, like all-star veterans, and you had young guys who were going to be very productive in the major leagues. Right now, I don't know if we have that.
Yeah, both were impressive for different reasons, but 2006 was a little bit more impressive because when you look at it in totality, they actually finished the job. They were able to get to the World Series. This team...
But they didn't finish the job.
They didn't ultimately finish the job, but if they won the World Series oh my God, that would have been crazy.
That would be a team of lore.
Exactly. The 2012 team, I think, was a team that is the most disappointing because they were better than the Giants.
That team was stacked.
I think most people going into that series would have felt like it was even versus the Cardinals.
You had 3 Cy Young winners who won 4 Cy Youngs.
Yeah, and Bumgarner was just awesome.
Yeah.
And then it's just that week off killed the Tigers. Yeah. It just killed them.
Always.
If they had played 2 days later, I think the Tigers would have at least done a little bit more. So, but in the end, both teams were impressive. Let's just hope the Tigers can continue it and they can continue to perform well. I'm looking forward to seeing how the 6-man rotation works. Hopefully they rebound after that tough loss versus the Reds. All right, cuz, great podcast. Our time is up. Great 70 minutes talking Detroit sports. Check out all the podcasts on our network on our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. You can find the podcast anywhere podcasts can be found. iTunes, Stitcher, Podomatic. Now you can find the Android player and our host site on our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. So anytime you're looking for Detroit sports content, 24/7, you can find it via our website. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Thank you so much. We look forward to talking with you guys again next week.
Go Kawhi Leonard.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I hear voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me. They talk to me. They show me things not to hear. They talk to me.